Welcome to Tales on the Towpath, the podcast where every mile tells a story.
We're two runners who spend a lot of time out here on the C&O Canal Towpath, talking about training, racing, and everything that happens between the miles.
From early morning runs to the stories that keep us moving.
This is where endurance meets inspiration, one step, one tail at a time.
So lace up and join us on the path, because every trail has a story, and this one's ours.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Adam Lowe.
And I'm Chris Earl, and we are joined again this week with special guest host, Katie Lowe.
Hi, guys.
So, Katie, you and Adam went down to Wilmington, North Carolina this last week, and I know that you had a race. How'd that go?
The race went really well. We actually were blessed with pretty good weather. It was the first time that we've stayed at the finish line and had to take a bus to the start line because it's a point-to-point race, so it actually starts in Wrightsville Beach and ends in downtown Wilmington, North Carolina. I think we talked last week, the race has, for the half marathon, literally has maybe 3 turns in it. It's very much a straight path, point to point, very flat. Some of the inclines are mainly just ramps to get on a different road. The race went really, really well for us. When we got to the starting line, it was cold, so we did have to sit around longer than what's usual for us, probably an hour and a half or so. We were just waiting for time to warm up and time to come into the corral. But it was probably, Adam, like 45 degrees, something like that.
Yeah.
And then we finally got to the point where we warmed up, and Adam had told me, you don't need gloves, you don't need long sleeves or even short sleeves, wear your singlet. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be brave and I'm going to trust him. And right before we went to warm up, I was like, Adam, I'm not trusting you anymore. I'm too cold. This is not going well. I'm going to be cold the whole race. Like I just was getting in my headspace. But once the race started, I went for it I took off my throwaways and I didn't wear my long sleeve during the race at all. And it was perfect. It was great weather the whole time. It was cloudy between probably 45 and 50 degrees during my race. I've been training for a 5K, I think I mentioned last week. So I wasn't sure how that would translate, but I said I was going to be brave and go out at PR pace. And I did. I went out at, I believe, around 7:45, between 7:40 and 7:45 the first couple miles, and I dropped it down to about 7:37, 7:38 for the third mile, and I was just cruising. The race went very well, and I kept telling myself that it was going so well, and I was like, I might actually PR this thing, but then I thought, man, we still got that was at 5 miles in, so I still have all these miles to go. Okay, just get halfway. So I pressed through that, and then I thought, well, I can keep this up. Went all the way until about mile 10 that I felt like, oh shoot, the wheels are starting to fall off. So at mile 10, I just told myself, just keep pushing. You only have a few more miles left. Just get to the next mile. When I got to that next mile, my gel that I took just before mile 10 must have kicked in, because mile 11 came back down and I was back cruising, but that didn't last very long. I was definitely in miles 12 and 13 feeling the effects of training for a 5K with just a little bit of extra distance. My legs needed more distance on them to really feel strong the whole 13 miles. However, I would love to report that I did run my PR for the half marathon. I ran a 1:42, maybe in 50 seconds or something like that. But I was only a little disappointed because I had expected the race to be long. The race had always been long. 13.26 and 13.28 were the previous 2 years. But in the pre-race video that I watched the whole thing, they had said, the course is now certified. We moved up the finish line. It should be exactly 13.1. But when I looked at my watch afterwards, it was still 13.26. So I don't know how they figured that out, because I promise you I didn't go off course or run the tangents so much worse than what I had the years previously. But they did move the finish line up a little bit, but I still got the same long course. So I was pretty encouraged with a time of 1:42 and whatever seconds, especially with a course that measured, still according to my watch, a little long. So maybe if I
Now
that elusive 13.1, I'll really be able to nail down a solid time.
now were you following the pace vehicle and did it make a wrong turn and maybe that's what led to a little bit extra miles?
Yeah, yeah, we'll use that as a that might be too soon to joke about actually. So I sure wasn't following the pace vehicle, but actually now that you say that though, I wasn't winning, but I did place in my age group, which is probably something I'm even more proud about than the time of a PR because the year before I think I was 8th in my age group and I thought that was pretty good for a big race. With the amount of people who ran at that race and the amount of people that were in my age bracket, I thought, "Heck, that's a 8th place. I'll take it." But this year I actually placed and I got an award. I couldn't believe it. I normally don't get to collect any hardware for age group placement at races of that size.
That's really awesome and congratulations on that. But serious question, I know it was a big race and were you started in a place where you got to get out and actually get into your stride right away, or did you spend a little bit of time weaving and winding in the first couple miles? Maybe that contributed to it being a little long.
Well, that's an excellent question because I took note of this while I was running. I lined up. They don't have corrals or anything. They just kind of call you to come into the starting corral. Like I think the first ones are elites and well, I don't know, wheelchair. No, there's no hand cyclists, but people pushing the wheelchairs like the Angels, Ainsley's Angels, I think, is that's what it's called? So they all go up first, and then they call, I think, sub 130. Was that what it was, Adam? If you're gonna run sub 130 half or a sub 3 hour, 3:05 or something like that marathon, everybody come up. And then they said, if you're gonna run under 145. So when they called that group, I went up and lined up because I thought my time would be, even if I didn't PR, I thought it'd be around 145. And I lined up with them and I felt from almost the get-go I could just run. There were a lot of people around, but I did not have to weave around a lot of very many people. I didn't get stuck behind. There was something of a headwind, so at times I really wasn't even too worried about people being in front of me. I usually like to have a little bit of opening in front of me if possible so I could just move my legs however my stride is natural for me, but I would say that this race, I was in a perfect place because I ran right around a lot of people at the beginning, but I did not have to dodge. I did not have, like, any problems with being held up. If anything, it was perfect for me because it also wasn't hindering, but it didn't allow me to take off and be under 7 for the first mile or something crazy like I tend to do. So, it's really important to me to try to run as even as possible, and I did a decent job. Maybe not as good of a job as Adam did in his marathon with consistent splits, but it was pretty good, except for, like, those 2 really hard miles at 10 and 12.
Well, that's great. Adam, do you want to talk about your marathon?
Yeah, so my, I guess, goal going in was just to keep everything simple and just to go out there and try to run even paces. And I kept it so simple that I didn't bring like food for breakfast or really prepare in that regard. So I ended up having, I think, 2 hard-boiled eggs from the hotel that morning for breakfast, and then a little bit of G1M Sport while we were sitting there after the bus dropped us off. And then it was go time. I was going to run with my son Ryan for a little bit at the beginning, but he told me that his goal pace was to do 7-minute miles for the first 3 miles and then pick it up from there. So I just decided I had decided that I was going to do 6:45s the entire race. That was my goal. So I didn't want to mess him up at all. So I went off on my pace and he started a little bit behind me. And then at about mile 2.5, he caught up to me. And, he kind of joked a little bit with me. And I said, hey, that's not really a 7-minute mile pace. And he just kind of laughed and then took off. So I was figuring and hoping that I would see him again later in the race. And I didn't see him again until right around mile 8. And when I could see him, he was still about a half mile in front of me. So it took me until about mile 9, 9.5 to catch him. And then I caught up to him and kind of gave him the old, hey, that a boy. and, said, "Hey, do you need a gel?" I offered him a gel. I could tell he was struggling a little bit, but he said he was just getting a cramp and he was going to fight through it. So we ran together for, I don't know, maybe a half mile, three-quarter of a mile. And then I kept going at my pace, and I looked behind me at around mile 11 and a half, and I didn't see him. So I thought for sure he was on the struggle bus, getting to the finish line of his first half marathon. And right before I turned to go to like mile 13 for the marathon, and the half marathoners continue to go straight, he caught up to me. So probably about mile 12.9 of his race, he caught up to me, and he was just so happy. Like, he didn't even look like he had ran 12.9 miles, and he had never done it before. And he just said, "Hey, I'm feeling good. I'll see you when you get done." So I will say this, I did go back and look at his official half marathon time, and it was 1:27:55. And when I split for my half marathon, I ran 1:27:54. So I was 1 second faster than him. And I ran another half marathon after that. So I still got it in regards to beating him in the half marathon as of now. It probably won't last too much longer, but we'll see.
I do have one question about that, and I don't wanna take anything away from you, Adam, but maybe the half marathon was a little long and your split was at 13.1.
Because if that would have happened, I would have outkicked him. I would have just buried him at mile 9.5 if we were racing each other. So to be
Well,
to be
what's
fair, the split for the marathon was long technically. So
okay, okay. We'll give you that. We'll still let you have this win. I will
uh,
say that you said when you passed him, he said that he was feeling good and whatever. But when he finished, there was a different story because I finished what, 15 minutes. Wait, what did he say? 127, whatever it was after him. Finished at 142 and I walked right over to where he was because I saw him with his stuff on a chair. And I said, "Well, how was that?" And he said, "That was terrible." And it was that. And he said, "More training would have been good." Those were the two sentences he said to me.
I will say this though, he has already asked to run Lock to Lock half marathon in September. So he's definitely not done with the half marathon yet. But it was a fun experience to be able to share some miles with him out there.
I think that's the typical immediately after the race reaction versus a day later reaction of which one's the next one, right? But
Yeah.
anyway, back to your marathon story.
So that made my half marathon, the first half, like pretty exciting. I was chasing him and then he was chasing me, and then I made that turn, and being familiar with that course, I kind of knew there was, it's an out and back, but you kind of go around a corner and you wind a little bit on a bike path. So it doesn't feel like a true out and back. So ideally, I told Katie afterwards, I just wanted to stay bored. Like, I wanted to be content with running between 640s and 645s, and all my splits were just about there. I took 3 honey stinger gels with me and a cyst gel, and after about 2 miles, I lost a honey stinger gel, so I had to take a huma on the course, and I just kind of went with it and just figured it was what it was, and just good practice for when things go wrong. Probably could have used another one at mile 24, but I was kind of looking forward to that like little bit of suffering that happens after mile 23 of the marathon. So, but anyway, I was really happy with my time. I ran 2:56:31, good enough for 74th place overall, which interestingly enough, Ryan also got 74th in the half marathon. So we were both 74th place. So that was kind of cool. And then I was second place overall in my age group. So I was pretty happy with the way the race went. And yeah, it was fun. I would do it again. I mean, we talked about that already, but I don't know that we're going to go back next year, but it'll be, yeah, I had a good marathon. I don't know what what else to say.
It's definitely a race to keep on our calendar, and if anybody out there is thinking about doing it, I highly suggest it. It's a PR type of course, especially for the half marathon, with how flat it is, but there's a great amount of crowd support. There's a few places where there's not much going on, but it really was the perfect amount where it's not like people are right by you yelling at you the whole entire time. So you do have some moments where you can kind of just zone like into your own I don't know, into your own race and your own thoughts. I like that part of it, but there was so much crowd support that there'd be a place where I'd come around a turn and I'd be thinking, "Oh man, I need to back off a little bit." And then there'd be tons of people. And it would just be that enough energy to push me to keep going and to keep pushing the paces that maybe I was thinking that were gonna slip away from me. So, I do highly recommend this race, and I even had the thought today of, well, maybe it's a good race to run a marathon at because the half marathon has treated me so well. 2 out of my most recent 3 PRs in the half marathon have been at this race. But then I thought again, well, it's in February, and I don't know if I love winter marathon training, so I'll have to think long and hard before I sign up for the full.
That's awesome. Congratulations to you both. And for our listeners, I'll go ahead and drop some information on the race into our show notes, and we'll have it there.
All right. Well, that was a fun and exciting race recap of the Wilmington half and full marathons. Today, we are joined by a very special guest. We have Tayrock, Taylor Rockwell, here from Austin, Texas. Chris and I met her online through Instagram. She started the Outrun Us Challenge, and that took place of our January challenge that we had signed up for, and that was canceled at the last minute. And somehow Chris came across this cool challenge on Instagram, and we of course signed up. So we brought her on today to talk a little bit about that challenge, how she got into running, and just some background information on her. And we are super excited to have you and to learn more about you as a person and a runner. So thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, my name is Taylor Rockwell, but you can call me Tayrock. It's a pleasure being here. I'm so happy to connect with fellow runners in the community. And yeah, when else do you get to meet others on the internet who are just crazy runners, podcasters? It just seems like a match made in heaven. So it's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, I think it's such a weird coincidence, right? That Adam and I had signed up for that original challenge, and when it got canceled, like the next day, I came across your Instagram post, and then it turns out you had signed up for the same challenge or tried to and couldn't get in. And so your solution was, well, then I'll just challenge the entire internet. Adam and I were like, okay, we didn't get to be in it. But you're like, I'm taking on the world.
Yeah, like I saw the post come through where they're like, "Hey, we're gonna do a couples challenge." And I was like, "We should do this. It'll be so much fun." So then I started to get kind of like excited. But then when I went to register, I couldn't find the link. And then they were like, "Yeah, we canceled it, whatever." So then I was like, "Yeah, I'll just do it myself." So I made a video that was kind of like, I'm in marketing, so I just kind of think more marketing brain. So I just made a video that was like, think you can outrun me, prove it. I tried to come up with a strong hook, but I thought it would be within my clubs, within my own community. At no point did I think this was going to go to a viral post, and it went viral quick. It went viral on Instagram and on YouTube. So then it became this like actual global challenge that now I'm competing with everybody head to head to try to outrun me. And, I wasn't going to let it go easily. And so you guys joined the challenge. You gave me a run for my own money. It was a very steep competition. But yeah, that's how we bonded and became friends. I guess it's more of a trauma bond at that point. How many miles can we try to outrun ourselves?
Yeah, I know when we signed up for that January challenge, I normally run 300 miles a month, so I was thinking, okay, I can go to 400 in January, and then Chris was gonna push himself to 300, so we were thinking 700 miles in this challenge. That should like do pretty well, no worries. And then we got to like day 20 of this challenge, and people are putting down 20 miles a day. And I quickly realized that it was going to take 500 miles to be in the top five. And, I was the one on the treadmill at 11:50 at night, still running on January 31st, getting those miles in.
Yeah, I also didn't think that it would be that extreme. Some people were, joking because I put like tag your partner, and some people were like, at Andy Glaze is my partner, David Goggins is my partner. But it's kind of ironic now, being that there was like 13 runners who outran Andy Glaze himself. And so it's kind of like that what we were competing at some serious levels if people were outrunning the Andy Glaze and his like crazy miles he puts down. So I also did not anticipate it being that extreme. And like you, I was on a treadmill during the late hours way more than I was willing to admit, just to keep or secure a certain place in the competition.
Yeah, we'll come back to that maybe here in a little bit. But before we get too much further, why don't you tell us a little bit about maybe your sports background, if you played some sports in high school or college, or what your experience was athletically growing up.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I was a soccer player from the day I was born to basically graduating high school. And I did get a soccer scholarship that I decided not to take because I was so burnt out that I really just was like, I don't feel like I'm going to go pro in soccer, and I'm starting to hate the game. And it was just a pivotal moment where I was like, I think this is the end. And I decided not to play soccer in college. So then it's kind of weird being an athlete your whole life and then just becoming an adult, and then just what do you do next? And being with running, it was always a punishment, I guess. If you didn't do what you're supposed to do, we're running at practice. And I specifically played midfield, so for 2 of my seasons, my end year seasons, junior and senior, I ran cross country, and it was just so I can become a better soccer player. Never about the sport of running, it was always the sport of soccer. And then so really, there was a large gap between sports and running from when I graduated to now. And so I'm 27, and I started actually running a year and a half ago, around when I was maybe 24, 25. And it was really simple. My mom, she was like, I'm going to run a half marathon to check something off my bucket list. So she went and she signed up for a half marathon. And if anyone has been to any race ever, it's like the most magical feeling in the air, whether you're spectating or running. It's just such a beautiful experience to watch people accomplish something so great as a half marathon, a full marathon. So I watch her. I'm spectating. I see her on the course a couple times. I see her across the finish line. I'm just like crying my eyes out. I'm just so happy for her. You just see the energy in the air, and I was like, "Well, I wanna do that." So, like, immediately that day, I signed up for my first half marathon. And then so a year later, it's my turn. I'm tipping the toe of my first start line, and I crossed the finish line of my first half marathon. And of course, I thought I was crying before. I'm crying double. I'm so happy. It's like the best feeling in the world. And I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm gonna sign up for another one. So I really like the rock and roll series a lot. And when I went to go sign up for my second half marathon, I noticed that the next rock and roll series was just a day before or the day after my 26th birthday. So I was like, it's like my golden birthday. I have to run 26 miles for my 26th birthday. So I guess I'll sign up for the full marathon instead of the half. And then, yeah, so then I trained for my first marathon. Knowing what I know now, I did not train for that marathon, but in my head, I thought I did. So I did the first marathon, and basically it's been a slippery slope ever since. It's been a lot of marathons, a lot of running, a lot of ultras. I've definitely caught the runner's bug and don't plan on stopping anytime soon.
My biggest takeaway from what you just said was that you went to your mom's race and were inspired to the point that you wanted to run. And that I loved how you described how magical it was and how the energy was. My children this past weekend at Wilmington did not have this magical experience. They were buzzkills the whole time. They sat there and they were cold, or they just wanted to go back to the hotel to swim, and they're like, "Yeah, mom, that was pretty cool, but you do that all the time." Like, they have not caught the bug, but You, like other guests in the past, are giving me hope that maybe they just need to be a little older, a little more mature to really feel that magic because a couple of them made signs and were pretending to be excited for very short periods of time, but
Yeah.
now we're getting some hope for maybe some future excitement.
Yeah, what I learned is when I was younger, athleticism was always about the sport and not necessarily the philosophy or the lifestyle of. And I feel like that's really why running connects more as an adult because it's like a practice or a philosophy or a way of truly living and exercising, being the best version of yourself. So I have confidence in them that, once they grow up and they start their own practices, not just outside of the sport, that, they'll catch it too, don't worry.
I just liked how you described the whole feeling surrounding your soccer experience and how you were so ingrained in the competition and playing soccer, but that you, even though it wasn't soccer anymore, that you kind of had that desire to get out there and do something, and I can totally relate with that.
So, are you obviously if you played soccer, for 2 years and then you ran cross country so you could be better at soccer and then you had a college scholarship for it, you were obviously pretty talented, so and competitive. Are you competitive in your running now? Cuz some of the stuff that I've seen on Instagram, not that you're not always competitive, but you sure look like you're having a lot of fun out there. And for me, I have a hard time separating those two things, like having the amount of fun that you look like you're having on race morning and being competitive. So, could you explain that maybe a little bit for me? Maybe you could help me learn something here.
Yeah, that's interesting because I'm about to say I'm not competitive coming from the person who just, dared the whole internet to try to outrun me. But really, I don't think I'm competitive. My co-host on my podcast, she's very competitive. She will do anything to win, and I'm very different. But I think where I find a lot of my fuel is simply in gratitude. And I know that sounds simple to say or even cliche, but I really found that once I just really unlocked or truly practice that I get to versus I have to and really implement and really understand, then it just changes everything. Like there's nothing to be competitive because you get to do it and, not only do you get to do it, you get to do it at all stages. You get to experience your first marathon. It's almost a part of the journey to experience what it's like to run a sub 5 marathon to then get to a sub 3 and anything in between that. That's all the journey. So to be competitive takes away from everything in between the 5 hours to the 3 hours. So, really, it's understanding that it's just a journey and everything that I experience, I'm experiencing for the first time. And I truly just allow myself to be present and I find with running, ironically, it just gets me to my highest frequency. Like, I just feel most alive when I'm running that it's like, if you're not running for fun, um, then kinda why you're running, and, what's interesting, I don't know if you noticed, but in February, we had the Outrun Us Ultra, and I didn't actually complete that challenge, and I just had a race the 1st, 2nd, 3rd week, and I was like, "I'll do the challenge the 4th week." Well, the 4th week was just a few days ago, and I found myself being like, "Oh, I have to go run. I need to go run this race, and I need to just, participate in my own challenge that I created." And I just had this moment where I was like, yeah, you're running for the wrong reasons if that's it. Like, what are you doing? Like, if you're gonna go out there and you're gonna do the 48 miles, like, yeah, I'm sure at some point my attitude would have changed. And I'm sure at some point I would have, found gratitude. But going into it, I knew my intention was incorrect. And therefore I was like, I'm gonna take a step away from that. And I think I'm gonna reevaluate how I feel about it. And now I'm like, I've done the reflection, I've thought about it, and now I'm like, okay, I can still do the challenge just next weekend. And I kind of got my mind right. And so I think for me, when I run, it's just important for me to make sure that I truly and exercising the right reasons to run because, yeah, like I never want to get to a point where running doesn't fulfill me anymore or running starts to feel like a chore. That's really what I'm trying to avoid, I think.
Wow, I really think that's a powerful message. I loved everything you just said. I know that for me personally, whenever I'm running with a bad attitude or I have to or I'm dreading it, it just doesn't go well. And especially in races. And when you were talking, it totally reminded me during my race just this past Saturday. I haven't raced a half marathon in a while, and last year I did a ton of them. So I was out there running and pushing myself, and when it got hard, I just kept reminding myself. I looked around and all these people running with me and all these people in the crowd. I thought, I'm so lucky to be doing this. I love this. Like when it got hard and my mind wanted to turn towards, uh-oh, I'm getting tired. Uh-oh, these things aren't working. This isn't going to go well. I just totally tried to turn my mind back into the, "No, I love this. Look, I get to be out here with all these people." And I think that's such an underrated part of training, and I'm really glad you talked about that, and I think our listeners will get a lot about that positive side of thinking and really turning your headspace into, "I'm so happy I get to do this," rather than, "Oh, I gotta be out here again," or "This is hard," or whatever wherever our minds can go in that negative space.
Yeah, I also have been doing a lot of pacing. And in pacing, I have found this weird, like, when I'm pacing somebody else's journey, I don't feel pain, I don't feel doubt, I don't feel like fatigue because my energy isn't focused internally. It's focused externally on getting them to their finish line. And so I really have been playing with the idea of how do I bottle that same superpower essentially to be able to fuel my own runs, to not feel that pain, not feel that fatigue. And I really think that if anyone can just figure it out for themselves, it's almost like a cheat code, but I think getting closer and closer to gratitude and that I get to, and just really having the self-fulfillment that running offers us is the quickest and easiest way to get there, although it's a lot easier said than done for sure.
Well, Chris, I was going to say, if you're not going to bring it up, I am. Because Chris definitely pointed out the fact that you did not complete the February challenge. So he told me that like 2, 3 days ago. And I tried to tell him, I said, hey, she probably needed a minute. Okay. She'll do it in March. Give her a break. And no, but good. But wait, one more thing on that. Can you not do it in March? Because now we're in a step challenge, and that doesn't seem very fair for you to
That's
do
what I was
48
gonna
miles
say.
in one day.
This just seems like
Yeah, she's gonna double dip.
this just seems like a lot of hoopla from competitive people over here. No, I definitely am going to do it, and I just needed like time to understand because I just felt like I was just hurry up and do it. And I had one of my friends was finishing an ultra marathon this weekend, and then I had Elamo marathon this weekend. So I was just like trying to figure out a way to like fit it in. And like while I'm willing to do it, it just didn't feel aligned. And yeah, I think doing something like that would be a road to burnout. At that point, I would just be like, why am I doing this? And it kind of takes away from the experience. So yeah, I might be double dipping a little, but you can too.
But there's nothing. That's what I was just gonna say, there's nothing stopping Adam from going out and doing his own, uh, ultra. Wait a second, you are doing that during March,
Yeah,
and you have an 8-hour challenge this Saturday, so who's
well,
double
we don't have
dipping
to
now?
tell her that. I mean, no, my backyard ultra is March 28th. So I will be doing the challenge again, hopefully a few times that weekend. So,
Well, then
yeah.
you're welcome. I was just helping you prepare and train for your upcoming March challenge.
Ex- exactly.
I do want to say though, you mentioned Andy Glaze earlier, and one of his key catchphrases is "If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong." Right? Like I might be paraphrasing a little bit there, but like I really think that's really important that you realize that and didn't force yourself to go out and do it just because you created the challenge, right? Like nobody should be doing something that hard if they don't want to. And I think that's really smart that you that you recognize that and we're okay with it. You know, Adam and I might have struggled with that, but you know, I think that's something we both could grow on a little bit. So
I
thank you
mean,
for
if
that.
you look at any successful athlete that is like one that really gets you emotional, it's when you experience the emotion with them and they're always so grateful. Like it's always like as soon as they complete it, it's almost like they're in shock that something fueled them to do it. You know, I don't know if you guys saw, but the woman who just finished she just set the 100-mile record. You know, she crossed that finish line with the biggest smiles and joy. And it's like you get so happy and excited for her because that's how bright she's vibrating. Those are how huge her vibes are. And it's like running allows you to tap into that energy. And if you are not tapping into that energy, it's kind of like, mm, like, you know, how do we run 100 miles? How do we run 500 miles in 1 month? It's like, it's when you're having fun, you don't even really notice. It's not even a part of it, but it can be extremely draining and daunting if it's not done correctly, I think.
Yeah, for our viewers who aren't aware, Ashley Paulson last weekend, I think, or maybe the weekend before, just set the world record in the 100-mile. And Adam, you'll have to help me out. What was her time? Low?
12:31 ish, right? Is that about
Yeah,
right?
something like that. Yeah, incredible.
And then she was jumping afterwards with joy. And I was like, I don't know if I can jump like that before my run, let alone after running 100 miles. I couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable.
I don't think we've told the story about my 100-miler on here, but that's for a different day. But afterwards, I didn't even know what size shirt I wore. So I definitely was not jumping in the air. I couldn't even answer a simple question. So we'll leave that for a different podcast, though.
Yeah, I think it just also goes to show on who you surround yourself with, you know, the type of runners you surround yourself with. I don't really surround myself with a lot of competitive people, people who aren't asking me what I'm training for, how much time I'm trying to get off. No one in my inner circle asks me questions like that. Everyone is making sure that I'm running for the right reasons. And so I just, you know, always encourage people to remind you like who you surround yourself really plays a big role. You know, the fact that you guys are nodding your heads when I'm talking just proves to me I'm in the right room with the right people. So it's kind of like, you know, being reflective on like if you are finding like competition in something, even if it's within yourself, and there's like a healthy way of doing that, but you know, if it's like daunting, then it's kind of like, well, what's wrong? Who's feeding these thoughts if not you, then who else, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, Adam and I have talked about this so many times on our towpath runs. You know, we're competitive, but you know, our entire running group, right? It's a healthy, fun competitive. You know, if I'm not having the best day, I'm still cheering on everybody else who's out there and celebrating their accomplishments, whether I had a great day or not. I'm happier for them that they had a fantastic day. And Adam and Katie have just built an amazing community around that.
Yeah, my favorite races are the races where I am being the most excited for other people, when I'm like, "Good job, runners." And it was this moment when I was in Honolulu, running the Honolulu Marathon, and I just the entire time was just like, "Good job, good job, good job, let's rock." Like, just having so much fun. And I had a quick thought, I was like, "You know, this is taking a lot of gut power to exert my voice that loud." And I was like, "Is this gonna wear me out?" And then for a second, I kind of was like, "Maybe I should stop." And then I was like, "Well, just keep doing it until you can't anymore." And then I got to the finish line and it was like, "You literally can." And you know, giving back is the best way to just like I don't know, like and I think that's why I like running community so much, is nobody on that course is telling you to slow down, not one person. Even though you guys are all technically in a race, everybody is encouraging each other. If you see somebody stopped on the side of a course, everybody is willing to help you, and I don't think you see that that much in other sports, especially competitive sports, so I just think the community here in the running space is very unique and very beautiful. I think it's, like, not something to just, like, take for granted. The people here are great.
That's awesome. And hey, Adam, before we move on, I don't want to shortchange Ashley Paulson at all. Her time was 12 hours, 19 minutes, and 34 seconds.
19.
Just blazing blazing fast.
Yes, thank you for correcting me, because I know how important those 12 minutes truly are to her and to that record. So seriously, man, I'm glad that we got that you looked that up and got that right. Tayrock, before we move on, there's a story that I'm hoping you're willing to share on our podcast. I don't know if we have the whole story yet or if you just keep dropping hints, but I need the full pickle juice story. Can you give that to us today, or is that off
Yeah,
limits?
no, I don't mind sharing because that's also, a video that went viral. I made a video talking about how I almost OD'd on pickle juice. I use these strong hooks, but that video has over 500,000 views. And a lot of the times I went to some, races and people are like, Taylor, I saw you from your OD juice, or like, where's the pickle juice? And it's becoming this meme. So yeah, I think I can set the record straight, but really it's just that. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm a rookie ultra runner. um, I always run, every single day. I'm a daily runner. And I afterwards just always want pickle juice. I keep like a gallon of pickle juice in my fridge at all times. I buy it on Amazon in mass. And so I always just take like a big gulp of it. Nothing bad has ever happened from that. But I have had one experience running an ultra where I got to the point where I no longer wanted to drink water and I no longer wanted to eat food. And so I was going into a 100K event and I just kind of already was imagining if and when that happens, I'm not going to want to drink water. So I was like, easy peasy. I'll just fill up my bladder with pickle juice because I know I always want pickle juice. So I filled up my 1.5 liter bladder with the whole gallon of pickle juice that I had. And yeah, I went on the course, I ran it, and then, at aid stations, they were like, "What do you need?" I was like, "Pickle juice." I filled it up again. I ran it, "What do you need?" "Pickle juice." I filled it up again. I kept running. And yeah, I mean, I crossed that finish line, but I was so bloated is an understatement. Like, I my ankles were literally the size of my knees, and, like, my knee was the size of my legs. Like, when they make the joke, "Legs are hot dogs," I was seriously just, like, one shape, there was no definition. I don't think I've ever seen, like, my midsection in my arms that big. I show a picture on my Instagram of my hand, but I couldn't even make a fist, I couldn't close my hand at all. And I didn't even think it was a problem, to be honest. I thought my face was swollen because I was crying. There was a whole other situation going on in that ultra, but I cried for 12 miles straight. So when I saw the photos of my face swollen, I'm just like, yeah, I'm an ugly crier. Like, of course my face is swollen. And then, I finished the 100K, and that race was kind of traumatizing. At the end of it, I wasn't exactly like, yeah, let's rock. I went to the car and I started crying and I just fell asleep in the parking lot. And then, when I woke up, I was kind of like talking to my mom and I was like, yeah, I'm really swollen. But, running just makes you swollen. So nothing new here. Crying makes you swollen. Nothing new here until I, insert concerned parent. And she's like, Taylor, you need to go to the hospital. You're going to get rhabdo. She's like worried out of her mind. She's like, are you sure you're peeing? I was like, I don't know. I just woke up. Like, give me a second. But, she's kind of freaking me out. And I'm like, I just ran. Like, don't scare me. So I'm like, Mom, it's fine. Like, it's fine, but then I, immediately go to Doctor ChatGPT and I'm like, "Am I fine?" Like, actually? And she was like, "No, you're not fine. You need to, like, figure these things out and, like, report back to me every 30 minutes, and, if things are changing, you need to go to the doctor." But nonetheless, a lot of potassium. I went on an extreme no sodium at all diet for 4 days. It took 4 days for me to come back to, like, a regular human size, but, yeah, I just took a lot of potassium, and I couldn't drink water, like, all at once because that is kind of the issue with rhabdo, and then also I needed electrolytes, but I couldn't drink electrolyte drinks because those have sodium in them. So I was just taking, like, raw electrolytes, and I had to sip them. So every 15 minutes, I was sipping them. Even through the night, I had a timer. Every 15 minutes, I'd wake up and take a drink of water for 4 days just to ensure that I would, not have to go to the hospital. That's what I was trying to avoid. Um, but yeah, that was a rookie mistake. I hope, I don't make too many more of those in my ultra experience, but I don't know how I did that.
Katie, did you do the math on how much 1.5 times 4, how many liters of pickle juice that is?
I did no math during that. I was just
It's
in
6, Adam.
awe of the
Yeah, when I asked chat, I think they said it was 38,000 milligrams of sodium that I took in. Yeah.
So just slightly above the daily recommended allowance, just slightly.
I was just gonna say when I have an LMNT, one of the elements, and they're so salty, right? 1,000 milligrams of salt. Before I would take one before like a miner's lady 8-hour ultra or something. And then I'd have another one in one bottle and water in the other. But by the time I would get halfway through my second one, because I'm thinking this is a really long race, right? I'm going to be putting in a lot of miles. And it was always during a hot month. I couldn't, like, my body would not let me drink that anymore. All it would crave is plain water. So I'm just kind of sitting here the whole time thinking, how did you continue to want that? Like,
Yeah, to make it even more emphasize on how little I was concerned about how much sodium was in pickle juice, I was concerned I wasn't getting enough sodium. So I was even taking salt tabs on the course because I was like, there's no way I'm getting enough sodium. And like, I don't know, I just thought like if you're running all day, like of course your body's using it, but like no.
All right, for our listeners, I I am a chemist by actual training, and so I know that 38,000 milligrams is 38 grams. And if you have a home kitchen scale, I would encourage you to get a bowl and pour into that until you get to 38 grams of either salt, sugar, anything, just to see how big that pile is. It is gonna be
And don't show
insane.
my mother because it'll horrify her.
Well, how long after the race did it take you to drink pickle juice again?
Yeah, it kinda became like a joke I kept playing on, but I kept saying, like, "We're seeing other people right now, we're on a break, like, we need to take a break." And then it did take me, like, about a week, and then there was one run I came home, and her and I were making gaga eyes at each other, so I took another drink, and I put on my Instagram story, I was like, "Good news, we kissed and made up, so we're ha in a happy, committed relationship again."
Very good. Well, yeah, thanks for sharing that story with us. And hopefully, some of our listeners will learn a little bit about overdosing on pickle juice from that. You had definitely had a very busy and interesting February. I know there was one day, I think it was just last week, right before you said about doing the 12-hour challenge. And Chris messaged me and he said, did you see that she like flew to Vegas, ran, and then flew back? And then I heard that story on your podcast. But do you want to talk a little bit about that race for us real quick? And because I think you at least PR'd that race. But yeah, you did pretty well for the amount of travel you did right before it and after it.
Yeah, I think it's just rookie making rookie mistakes over and over again here, but I just booked the wrong flights. And so, didn't really want, I just had so many events going up. So I was like, I don't know if I want to do rock and roll Las Vegas. I just don't know. But that's one of my favorite courses that I ran last year. So I had initially planned on going, but then just more and more events just keep popping up. But nonetheless, it came, the weekend's here. No, I'm going. I want to go. So last second, I booked my flights like 2 days before we need to go. And I just happened to book incorrectly, but I was like, no worries. The 24-hour little edit feature will save me. But it was Frontier, and they were like, no way. Like, good luck. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I just got to make this happen. So basically, I left my house on Sunday, which was race day, at 8:15 a.m. to go to the airport. And I went from Austin to Denver, from Denver to Las Vegas, and I landed at 2:30 p.m. and the race started at 4:30 p.m. So I had exactly, like, as soon as the wheels touched ground, I had the timer starting at 2 hours to get off the plane, into the car, down to, the strip of Vegas, and that's chaos because, for races, they close all the roads, find my bib. I had someone pick up my bib, figure out where I'm gonna leave my stuff on the strip. I traveled with absolutely things I didn't care about just in case I had to leave them on the street and I never see them ever again. And then, yeah, I get to the start line. I film my content, come run rock and rock and roll Vegas with me. And it wasn't a half marathon PR like overall, but it was a PR for the course. So I ran a 1:35:04, I think was my official time. So it was still a good time for the course. And then, yeah, immediately after, I went and got dinner with my friends. But then I was like, can you take me to the airport? And they took me back to the airport. And I went from Las Vegas to Denver to Austin, and I landed at 8:45 a.m. So, from 8:15 a.m. the day before to 8:45 a.m. the next day, it was a full 24 hours of just like nonstop go, go, go. But that one was that one was also just for I just didn't want to miss it, I guess.
So I have traveled with Adam and Katie to races, and I just when I heard your story, I was trying to imagine Adam in a similar situation where he wasn't in control of the timeline, able to get to the race an hour ahead of time. I mean, Katie, back me up here, right? This would have been a nightmare.
So booking so late, like so close to race day, that's totally something Adam would do, but not being at the race way early with plenty of time, and that would set Adam off. And I'm the other way around. I want to plan early, but I don't need all this extra time at the start. But yeah.
Yeah, well, for more content, like our context, I guess, we were like 3 minutes late signing on to this podcast, and I started freaking out that they were just not signing on yet, and I'm ready to go. And so that could maybe tell you a little bit about me.
The number of times he said, "Katie, are you ready?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you literally just stood up. I'm sorry I wasn't quick enough to get off the couch."
Yeah, no, don't make any I definitely was anxious. I wasn't like just chilling. Like I definitely was like, "Oh gosh," but I think I just had this moment with myself. I was like, "Worst comes to worst, I go and I just cheer on the other people." And I know that that is something I enjoy doing. So even at the worst case scenario, I'm still going to have fun. Still just going to tell my story online, just still going to document the story. And for me it's kind of like it's just experience. That's what I mean. No expectation of a certain time, no expectation on how I need to form, just going and experiencing. And when you allow yourself just the opportunity to experience, like nothing really can go too poorly.
So what's next? What are you gonna do in March, April, June, and so on? Do you have any big racing plans or running plans or pacing plans? What do you got coming up?
Yeah, so I put myself on the Moab 240 wait list, and so I keep inching closer and closer to getting off of that, and I keep hearing more and more people being like, I got off, I'm in." So now I'm even more like, okay, I need to, make sure that that's where my intention really is training for that, just in case the day comes that I get off of it, I'm prepared. So that's where a lot of my training and efforts are going. In addition to that, I need to get way familiar with first the 100-mile distance. I'm not even there yet. The most I've ever done is 100K. So I definitely am gonna do a 100-mile here shortly. I paced the 100-mile, but I only did the back half, 50 miles. So I think, having the person that I pace me now and allowing them almost to be a support or a guide for what's to come. I think I will do a couple of those just to get familiar with that distance, familiar with myself, try to rule out any rookie mistakes I potentially might make because at this point it's becoming a ritual, and just really just making sure I execute and just being the best version of myself, and through that it's running. So just making sure I'm having fun, allowing it to fuel me, but ultimately just reaching new depths, new distances, new dimensions that this is willing to take me, and just like enjoying it and documenting it along the way. So, a lot to come, but also not that much, I guess, like just enjoy the experience.
I love your no fear attitude about running. Like I've been running for over 30 years and I'm terrified to run my first 100 and I keep finding excuses not to do it. And you're like, I'm going to sign up for the Moab 240 and for training I'll do a couple of hundreds along the way. Like I just love that. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think like I don't know why, but I'm like if I can walk, I can run, and if I can run, I can do the distance. So it's not really about the distance. I don't know, you know, if I think 240 does intimidate me because there is such a large percent of DNF and there is so much experience that those runners have that I don't have. But I really just try to lean in and trust that like I do allow just gratitude to fuel me. And like I've been to those moments where even on my 100K, like, I couldn't walk, and I just how my miles were taking me over 45 minutes to complete. At that point, I was basically crawling to the finish line, and so I think if that's how I'm at mile 64, where am I gonna be at mile 140 or 240 even? But, I watch a lot of documentaries, I listen to what a lot of runners say, and what I have found is that all of them kind of how they feel in that moment will not determine how they'll feel in an hour. So, like, I really just always try to trust and believe that just because I'm down bad right now, just because something's aching right now, to just keep going. And then somehow, some way, like magic enters the villa and like you will just be able to keep going. So, in my mind, I'm like, as long as I have a positive mindset, a positive attitude, and I truly just keep putting my best foot forward, like, what could go wrong as long as you just keep going? Like, you only stop once you truly stop.
Chris, did you know that 100 miles is only 32 5Ks? I'm sure you can do that, right?
Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah, I mean, if you
Perfect.
could do one, you could do
Well,
32.
that's runner's math right there. I love it.
I was gonna say that Tayrock sounded exactly like Adam when she said, "If you can walk, you can run, and if you can run, you can do the distance." Adam does the math all the time. Well, if you can do a 5K, then that's basically a 10K, which is I mean, you just go a little farther for a 50 mile, and next thing you know, you're running 250 miles. It's easy. You can do it.
Yeah, so when I paced the first 100 miler, that runner kinda started to fall back at mile 80 and he couldn't walk either. And so we had made the decision for him to sleep on course. And that was the first time him and I have ever slept on course. But I suggested it because I was watching a lot of Moab 240 documentaries in January when I was running my treadmill miles. Like that was the only way I was like, entertaining myself through that. And a lot of the runners would say that a 15-minute nap would bring their legs back to life. So I was like, look, I don't know if it's true. I've never done it myself, but let's try at this point. So we ended up sleeping on course and then we woke up and he had fresh legs and he finished really strong. But then just 2 weeks later, he ran a 100-mile race again in Panama, coast to coast. And I asked him like, "Did you want to sleep on course?" And he was like, "No." Like, all those times that, like, I was down bad, that I was, like, walking essentially, I couldn't move, he's like, "I just learned how to run through it." And so it's, like, hearing moments like that that just make me feel like, okay, like, there will be a point where you can't necessarily run anymore, that maybe you can walk, but then how do I learn for myself to just keep running through it? So that's where I just feel like a lot of, like, strength or confidence that, like, you can just keep going as long as you just keep going.
Yeah, I agree. Well, what a great, fun episode we had today. I'm hoping that our listeners are going to take away the same thing I did, and that was your message of gratitude and just enjoying the journey. And maybe I can be a little less competitive. Maybe I will see, but just the kind of the go with the flow and take the miles as they come. So I'm hoping our listeners can take that message away, like I certainly did. Before we let you go, we do what we call the after party. So I have 9 questions prepared for you, and they are just like real quick answers. So 1 or 2 word answers, no need to elaborate. It's just something Chris and I do after we run on the towpath. Sometimes we just talk real quick afterwards. Before we get started, if you're drinking something, we'll have you share what you're drinking. I'm drinking a Sam Adams Cold Snap. Katie, what do you got to drink today? Are you drinking water?
I'm always drinking water. Yep. Boring.
Chris, what do you got?
I have my Chipotle porter, smoked Chipotle porter that I brewed back a few weeks ago.
Fine.
And Tayrock, what are you
I
drinking?
have a strawberry limeade Spindrift sparkling water.
Oh, nice. All right, so I'll just ask you, and again, just 1 or 2 word answers, and we'll learn a little bit more about you here at the end. So, do you like to run with friends or go solo?
Alone.
All right, do you have one favorite song for the final mile push?
Dream On, Aerosmith.
Do you prefer road or trails?
Trails. 1,000,000%.
All right, one word your crew would use to describe you.
Unhinged.
Your favorite post-marathon or ultra-marathon meal?
Breakfast, like tacos, brunch, like anything breakfast, egg, potato, like please.
Perfect. All right, what's your favorite race distance?
I really like the half. It's just so fun right now, but also the 100K and I have some, redemption arc to do. So,
All right, a couple more. Coffee before a run, yes or no?
ooh, no, but I will, but no.
All right, Garmin or Koros?
Garmin.
All right, last one. How many times do you check the weather the week leading up to a race?
0. You just heard
Zero.
you just heard how I planned.
Okay.
Hear that, Katie?
I don't do that.
I put that question in there for Katie. So she checks it about 1 billion times, and I check it 0 as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I just never even think
Yeah, I
about
don't know what that
that
life's
at
like.
all.
Oh man. All right, well, Katie, before we go, do you have anything you would like to close us out with?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Tayrock so much for being on. I loved your messages about what fuels your running desire, your gratitude, your positive thinking, you're going out and doing it to have fun. I just love this. If I wasn't on this podcast, this would be a podcast I would want to listen to because I just took away so much from the things you were saying. So if you ever write a book, I want to be first in line for a signed copy. Keep me in mind. Thank you so much for being here.
Before she answers that, Katie, I'm not paying you more because you say you would listen to the podcast that you're on. That's not how this works. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Tayrock. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying thank you, and I appreciate being here. Like I said, being with like-minded people is so important to me, and you guys have built a community that's so beautiful, and I'm sure everyone who's listening to this has, similar qualities. So just to be able to add to the momentum is just, really fulfilling. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity.
Chris?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on. I mean, I have found you from day one of joining the challenge to just be infectious with your energy levels and bringing so much fun. I can tell from your videos that like your local running community is fantastic. If I'm ever in Austin, you better believe I'll be looking you all up and finding out where you're meeting and
Yeah,
where you're
well,
going.
not after that. When I just answered, I prefer running alone. They're all gonna be like, "What do you mean?"
Chris, you got to edit that out.
Yeah, maybe we'll edit it and I'll put in some like weird bleep or something. Yeah, it'll be fine.
Perfect. Well, thanks again, Tayrock. This was a ton of fun. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us, and we cannot wait to continue the March challenge with you. And then we look forward to April and whatever you got in store for us the rest of the year.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And can I plug where people can find the challenges and myself? Sure. So my Instagram is Taylor_Rockwell. It's the everyday runner for the everyday runner. And then on there, I do the Outrun Us challenges. So it's at Outrun Us challenges, and we do monthly challenges for any runner of any level to join and push themselves. Really, the community is to allow people the opportunity to reach depths that they thought weren't possible. Like you said, you didn't enter the challenge thinking you were going to run 100 or 500 miles that month, but you did. And so that's really where our community shines. So definitely don't be intimidated. Come on, just join. But nonetheless, yeah, thank you so much for having me. Very appreciated.
And Adam, where will we be able to find that information?
I will have my man Chris put all that stuff in the show notes. All right. Thank you very much. We will see you on Instagram for sure.
Thank you. Let's rock.
Thanks, everybody.
That's all for today's episode of Tales on the Towpath. Thanks for joining us on another run down memory lane and along the C&O. If you've enjoyed the show, be sure to follow, share it with a friend, and leave us a review. Until next time, keep your pace steady and your stories flowing.